Have you ever felt a presence in your car at night? Let me take you back to a time when I owned this massive, old-fashioned car, the kind that's no longer in production. It was grand, with seats that felt like small sofas and a backseat so vast that it always made me a tad uneasy. As darkness fell, the backseat would transform into this vast, shadowy expanse, a perfect hideaway for anyone or anything seeking cover in the dark. Now you might be thinking, why not turn on the interior light and double-check? Well, the light was out, and in my lethargy and thriftiness, I never quite got around to replacing it. But it wasn't just the darkness that made the backseat eerie. There was a story attached to it. The man who sold me the car had shared a chilling tale. He claimed that this car was haunted, that it carried a tragic past. A family, he said, had met their untimely end right in that car, succumbing to a silent but deadly killer: carbon monoxide. They had parked the car in their garage, unaware of the danger they were in until it was too late. Such a story would send shivers down anyone's spine. And while part of me dismissed it as a tall tale spun by the previous owner, I couldn't entirely shake off the sense of unease. There was something about the car, especially at night, a sensation that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, an uncanny feeling of being watched, a whispering dread that hinted at something unseen lurking in the shadows. But I continued to ignore these feelings, attributing them to my overactive imagination fueled by the car's haunting backstory. I let the uncanny dread slide, choosing comfort over fear, convenience over the chilling whispers of my intuition. And so every night I felt an unsettling presence in my car, yet I chose to ignore it. One dark early morning, I had to take my son to the dentist. Now, my son Davy, he was a spunky little 5-year-old who had more energy than a power plant. He had a particular distaste for the dentist, a sentiment shared by many his age. His preferred spot during car rides was sprawled out in the back seat, a vast expanse of upholstery inviting him to stretch out and make himself at home. The dentist's office was a good distance away from our house, a long drive that stole away the precious morning hours. It was still dark when we set out, the sun yet to peek over the horizon. It was one of those mornings where the darkness seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the break of dawn, still and eerily quiet. Now I have this thing called night blindness. It's not as dire as it sounds, but driving at night does require my undivided attention. Even the slightest distraction could potentially lead to an accident. It's a bit like walking a tightrope, where one misstep could send everything spiraling out of control. We embarked on our journey, the car humming beneath us as we traversed the winding roads. The journey was a familiar one, yet the darkness imbued it with an uncanny sense of mystery. The road stretched out before us, a serpentine path cutting through the dense forest, swallowed by the inky darkness of the pre-dawn hours. Davy was in the back, quiet for once. The anticipation of the impending dentist visit had subdued his usual vivacious energy. I focused on the road, my eyes straining against the darkness, the car's headlights casting long spectral shadows that danced and flickered with our passage. And there we were, driving through a dark, deserted stretch of road, cutting through the forest. The only sounds were the low purr of the engine, the crunch of gravel beneath the tires, and the faint rustling of leaves in the chilly morning breeze. Little did I know, the journey was about to take a turn for the bizarre. Suddenly, I felt my son's finger running up and down the back of my neck. It was a sensation that sent an icy shiver down my spine, a prickling annoyance that tested my patience. At first, I tried to dismiss it as just another one of Davy's harmless pranks. My 5-year-old son, you see, was a notorious prankster, especially when he wanted to divert attention from something he didn't want to do, like going to the dentist. But that day, his pranks took a disturbing turn. Despite my repeated reprimands, he continued his unsettling game, his finger tracing the same irritating path up and down my neck. The more I told him to stop, the more determined he seemed to continue. It was as if he was testing my patience, pushing my buttons, trying to see how far he could go before I would snap. And then, the noises started. From the back seat, I could hear heavy, labored breathing like that of a wild animal. I tried to convince myself that it was just Davy, trying to scare me with his pranks, but something about these sounds was different, more sinister. They were too deep, too guttural to be coming from a 5-year-old boy. The breathing soon morphed into growls, low and menacing. They echoed in the confined space of the car, amplifying the eerie atmosphere. It was as if the backseat of my car had turned into a dark haunted forest and my son was the beast lurking in its depths. His growls were growing louder, angrier, as if he wasn't my little boy anymore. Each growl sent a fresh wave of fear coursing through my veins, making my heart pound in my chest. The harmless pranks had crossed the line, transforming into a disturbing spectacle that was far from child's play. The tension in the car was palpable, the air heavy with a sense of impending doom. I felt trapped, caught in a nightmarish scenario that I couldn't escape from. And all the while, my son's growls continued, growing louder and more terrifying with each passing second. His growls were growing louder, angrier, as if he wasn't my little boy anymore. Upon reaching the dentist's office, I was ready to scold him. I was fuming, frustrated by his constant teasing and the unnerving, animalistic noises that echoed from the back seat. My hand was already on the door handle, ready to swing it open and confront my mischievous son. But when I opened the door, I was met with a sight that froze me in my tracks. The back seat, previously filled with the sounds of Davy, was hauntingly empty. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum, the rhythm echoing in my ears. A cold chill ran down my spine, the hairs on my neck standing on end. The car, once filled with the innocent laughter of my son, now felt like a cavernous abyss, housing nothing but oppressive silence and the lingering echo of a growl. I blinked once, twice, hoping that it was a trick of the dim morning light, but the reality remained the same. Davy was not there. Desperate, I fumbled for my phone, dialing our home number. Each ring felt like an eternity, the silence on the other end amplifying the pounding in my chest. When I heard his voice on the other side, a wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a chilling realization. Davy was at home, safe and sound, having never left the house. He had managed to escape through an open window while I was struggling with the battery cable, all in a bid to avoid the dentist. But if Davy was at home, then who or what had been in the car with me? My heart was racing, my blood running cold. The haunted tales of the previous owner came crashing back, each detail etching a permanent mark on my memory. I knew then that I would never step foot in that car again. I learned a valuable lesson that day. A lesson rooted in fear, yet interwoven with the innocent mischief of a child. Davy, my 5-year-old son, had pulled off the perfect escape plan to dodge his dentist appointment. The open window, his gateway to freedom, left unnoticed as I grappled with the stubborn battery cable under the hood. His little prank, however, left me with more than just a missed dentist appointment. It was as though his absence had filled the car with an eerie presence. The sensation of a finger running up and down my neck, the unnerving growls echoing from the back seat, it all seemed too real, too chilling to dismiss as my imagination. Was it my son's prank that had ignited my fears, or was it the haunting tales of the car's previous owner that had seeped into my mind? A family, he said, had been claimed by the silent killer, carbon monoxide, within the confines of this very vehicle. Could their spirits still be trapped in there, seeking company on lonely, dark roads? I pondered this, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and incredulity. Was it possible that my son's innocent mischief had inadvertently revealed the car's spectral passengers? Or had my overactive imagination, fueled by the early hour and my unease at driving in the dark, conjured up these phantom touches and sounds? The truth, I realized, lay somewhere in between. Perhaps the car was haunted, perhaps it wasn't. But the fear, the unease I felt, was very real. The shadows in the back seat, the unseeable corners, they would always hold the potential for fear, for the unknown. So, I decided to heed the lesson learned from that harrowing drive. No more would I let laziness or thriftiness prevent me from ensuring my own peace of mind. No more would I step into the car without first illuminating its dark corners, without first dispelling the unseen. Always check the back seat of your car at night, because you never know what or who might be lurking there.